Okay, here we are back again with the Book of Matthew study, background part 2, understanding the context of biblical passages. Here we have what is meant by context. Most Bible studies will teach the concept of taking verses in context. Unfortunately, the only concept of context usually taught is hierarchy grammatical, referring to the surrounding words and sentences. While literary grammatical context is important, there are others just as important to consider, including religious, cultural context, which is the first century Jewish, and an historical, political context, which is Jewish Roman and Jewish Roman. Now, religious cultural context, this word includes theological statements made by Yeshua, Jesus, and the authors of the New Testament. As oftentimes they are reflecting Second Temple era religious opinions, including those found in the Talmud. It also takes into account habits of Jewish lifestyle, Judaism's relationship to the Gentile world, and idioms and figures of speech used in first century Hebrew dialogue. Historical political context, this includes global events leading up to the first century scene depicted in the New Testament, first century Jewish life under Roman authority, and relationships between Jewish religious factions such as the Pharisees, Sadducees, and the Essenes. Now, let's talk about renewing our mindset. Okay, most people studying the scriptures today have an approach that is formed by their church cultural, educational, and family background. Excuse me. No matter how objective they try to be, letting the scriptures speak for themselves, the fact is that they are 20th century Western-minded people who are reading documents from another time and Hebrew culture. In the case of the New Testament letters, you also have documents that were translated into the Greek language of 19,000 plus years ago. I'm sorry, 1900 years ago, and then into today's modern languages. Now, all of this presents not only a question of grammatical difficulty, it also often involves understanding complex Hebrew religious concepts for which there was no adequate expression in the Greek language and are lost in the translation, i.e., you need to put the text back into the context the Hebrew authors intended it to be read in the first place. Although this may sound simple, it is the reality, the single greatest obstacle for the modern Bible student to overcome, especially one raised in Christian America or Europe. The first step toward eliminating biases is to understand that Matthew, as well as the rest of the books of the New Testament, must be studied in the following context. They are first century Hebrew texts written by authors with a Hebrew understanding of such things as faith, or salvation, or law. They were never meant to be interpreted with a 20th century Western mindset that has been tainted by almost 2,000 years of non-Jewish and even anti-Jewish theology. They were written with an assumption that the readers have some grounding in Torah, i.e. books, with the primary focus on Gentiles, such as Romans, and in some cases are well established in Torah, i.e. in accordance with the books, with primary message to Jews, such as Hebrews. Okay, now they were written at a time when Rome controlled the land of Israel and its people, and Gentiles coming to faith by the preaching of the disciples were entering from a very anti-Semitic Roman culture and had little regard for anything Jewish, even as believers. They are written at a very messianically focused time in Israel's history. There was a wide range of opinion on spiritual matters in Judaism at that time. Okay?